I need you to wash your bottom properly. I need you to get a wash towel or a wash rag and some soap, and I need you to wash your bottom. That's right.
Welcome back. Dr. Jen Caudle appears as a regular on-air health expert for local and national news programs, including the Today Show, CNN, Fox News, The Rachel Ray Show, Steve Harvey Show, and so many more.
And Dr. Jen has racked up nearly 90,000 loyal followers and more than 1.3 million likes. She posted a video sharing the top 5 areas people don't wash enough.
Dr. D and I are so intrigued to get the full story. Welcome, Dr. Jen.
Thank you so much.
So, Dr. Jen, did you think at the time that you were recording this video, before you posted it, that you were going to get this many views?
I honestly didn't. The video is about 5 body parts that you're not washing enough. The conversation really came out of, rather, the video came out of conversations I have had with patients over the years as a family doc. These are some of the things we talk about, amongst so many other things. And I decided to update my viewers on those body parts that should be washed. And no, I was not expecting this reaction, but glad that many people are finding it helpful.
So for those who haven't seen it, though there aren't that many, it seems, that haven't yet, what are those 5 body parts? And how should we wash them?
Yeah, no, of course. So some of and actually there are more than 5 body parts that I think that we often neglect, but I chose 5 in this video, and I made another video with others. But in this particular video that went viral, the belly button is a body part that is often neglected, especially for those who have any belly buttons. The outies sort of stick out and you see them, but the innies get neglected all the time. Also, the tops of the ears and behind the ear, also the crease of the ear. Many people are focused on ear wax on the inside of the ear, but forget behind the earlobe, top of the ear, etc. Also, things like underneath the fingernails. Luckily, with COVID, hand washing has been, in terms of the importance, has been heightened. But we forget underneath the fingernails. Also, washing our legs is very, very important. There are other body parts that need to be washed as well. I say behind the knees, the neck, etc. But those are in between the toes. That was the other one I mentioned in the video because you can get fungal infections and other infections there. But yeah, those are some that we should definitely focus on.
I would think people assume because they're washing with soap or cleanser and gravity, the soap goes down and it hits everything. They don't really have to focus on those parts.
Yeah.
Is that what you think happens?
I do. I do think that sometimes we might jump in the shower and just assume that the soap that starts somewhere near the top of our body migrates down and gets all the parts that needs to be gotten. But the truth of the matter is that's not enough with many of our body parts. The belly button does not get clean just by, shampoo washing over it or soap from your shoulders washing over it. I actually recommend using a washcloth or a wash towel. And actually, you need to clean the inside of your belly button with soap and water. There are other ways to do it that I discuss in other videos. Same thing. This might feel graphic, but your bottom as well. People focus on the front, but we also have to remember the backside. And I recommend a wash towel with soap and water. So I do encourage people to not just sort of use gravity is a wonderful thing. It does help in this situation, but I don't think it fully does the job for all of our body parts all the time.
Would you say that we should reuse that loofah, or is it better to have a new one every time we shower?
That's a great question. So, my bathing item of choice actually is a washcloth. And I personally like them better because loofahs, depending on the size, may not get into the cracks and crevices that need to be gotten into. There are different forms and ways to wash yourself, and I know some people prefer loofahs. But when it comes to washcloths, you bring up a really good point because they need to be washed themselves. They need to be properly cleaned. They need to be dried because if they are not kept clean and not drying in between, being wet, they can harbor bacteria and sort of get a musty odor and things like that. You don't want that. So also keeping the items that you bathe with sanitary is I would say probably just as important as being sanitary yourself.
Well, I have to ask, are there any do's and don'ts for washing the privates?
It's a good question. And I'm glad that you asked, right? Because these things sometimes, I think maybe one of the reasons you asked me earlier, why did I think it would go viral? The answer is no. But I do think, not that there's a shock value, but this is stuff that we just don't always talk about. And it really is important. Do's and don'ts. Okay. What I would apply to the privates, I would apply to other parts of the body. In another video, I talk about the importance of, for example, lifting up folds. And I kind of equate that to privates. Sometimes we have folds. Totally okay. But the important thing is to lift up our folds if we have them. Same thing with women who have large breasts. Same thing with our private parts, our backside. The importance is to sort of get in the crooks and the crevices, if I can say that. So what applies to our privates, I do think applies to the rest of our body, and really normalizing that, and making sure not only people are doing it, but that we talk about this openly, because it is important.
And I just want to follow up and ask, why is a washcloth better than just using soap in your hands?
So whether it's better or not, I'm speaking anecdotally. This is my personal opinion. I feel like, well, sometimes with our hands, you can't get the same level of friction. I don't want you to wash your skin off, right? I don't want people to scrub their skin off. But I do think that sometimes a wash towel facilitates, like, for example, your belly button. You're not going to be able to clean your belly button if it's an innie, a deep innie, with your fingers, and you may not want to, the same way you can with a washcloth. So it's sort of those areas. It's not that washing with hands is a bad thing. It's just that sometimes I think there are some body parts that lend themselves particularly well to washcloths.
So we come out of the shower, we're super clean. We go typically into bed, right? So we were talking about this, and Stephanie was saying she has this argument with her husband all the time.
How
Right.
often to change the sheets?
Yeah, so I did a video on that as well, a while back, about how often you should wash your sheets. That came out of this concept that there are a lot of people who really just don't wash their sheets a lot. I think general consensus from what I saw, and just sort of my personal opinion, as well as general consensus, is I would say once a week is reasonable. But you also want to sort of think about your activity levels and what you do, right? If you're someone who does not bathe before bed, or if you're someone who sweats a lot at nighttime, you may want to change your sheets more frequently. So this is where personal sort of, not only we're talking about sanitary reasons, so not so much preference, but personal habits play a role. If you sweat a lot, you may be changing your sheets every couple of nights, because remember, sweat and dust mites and things like that can get caught in our sheets. We want to keep them sanitary. This is for health reasons. So that's something to keep in mind. But I think for many people, probably once a week is reasonable.
Embarrassingly, I remember when I was young and I was in sleepaway camp, they made you change your sheets once a month. And all of us were like, oh man. But before we let you go, Doc, can you give us a few tips for dealing with this horrible cold and flu season that's going on?
Yeah. This has been a tough season, not just with COVID, but RSV. We've seen, just in the flu, right? A lot of stuff running around. I think we mentioned a little bit earlier the importance of hand washing. That really applies here. Hand washing is a really important and wonderful way to protect ourselves. Also, disinfecting surfaces in our homes, especially when someone is sick, making sure you're disinfecting those commonly used surfaces, the doorknobs, tables, countertops, etc. Wearing masks right now, there are some people who do, some people who don't, but the truth of the matter is masks really do protect us not only against COVID, but other respiratory viruses that are spread the same way. They will help protect you against flu, RSV, and other things. So that's important. Getting vaccinated, super important. As a family doctor, I advocate vaccines like you wouldn't believe. Flu vaccines, pneumonia vaccines, vaccines for COVID, and the boosters. That's very important at this time. And the last thing I would say too is a lot of people may feel like they still need to go out and about when they're sick, still need to push through. This is really a time, I think, in our history where we're actually recognizing the importance of staying home when you're sick. Don't go to work when you're sick. Don't go to school. Don't send your kids to school. Don't tough it out. You really need to stay home. It'll help you get better, hopefully more quickly, but it'll also help protect other people.
Well, Dr. Jen, thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you.
And next up, we'll call in our very own Glam Squad to make over the winner of our first Valentine's Makeover. Stay with us.